There are many goals a writer might have for creating a text, and it's important to be clear as to why you are doing what you're doing and what is your goal. Sometimes the goal is simply to convey information to someone who needs to read the paragraph or the instruction sheet. At that point, you as the author are not trying to create interest in this person. You're not trying to capture this person, if you will. This person is coming to you and is seeking information and already has an interest in like learning how it's done or getting the right instructions. So at that point, you don't have to really develop a sense of style or a sense of you know experience for the reader, because they're there just for the information. They would rather prefer it to be quick, very easy to understand, that sort of thing. But as an artist, as an author that is perhaps writing material, I don't know if you are going to do this or not. It depends on your gifts and on your vision. But we want you to think about this as an author that is writing an essay or a couple paragraphs or a comic strip, or it could be a chapter, an article, a web page, a lot of things. If you are envisioning your audience as not necessarily having to read your work, in other words, they don't have to read it, but they are willing to give you just a few minutes or really seconds of their attention, then your job as an author, if you want to create this sort of material that can actually be alive and well, can compete in the world of information that we live in, then your job as an author is to create interest, maintain it, and reward it. So writing is something of a science. It's much more of an art, and at times it seems a mystical art, but it can be demystified. And there are simple rules and simple goals that can make everybody a better writer, and this is one of them. Don't overcomplicate some of the core things that you have to have in your writing if it's going to survive in a very crowded information scape. You have to create interest, maintain it, and reward it. Create, maintain, reward, interest. So as far as creating it, imagine that this person is sitting in a hotel lobby or an airport lobby or a doctor's lobby. It's the lobby reader, the leisure reader. And they're looking at your material. They do not have to look at the material. They're waiting for something else. They're just kind of spending some time looking online, looking at their phone, looking at YouTube, video clips, material. If whatever they're looking at doesn't capture their attention, they can easily just slide to another video, turn the page of the magazine. All right, they do not have to read anything. But they're willing to be engaged in text in that moment, just as they are waiting. Okay, that's what we call the leisure reader, or the disinterested reader. They're not. They're doing it, but they're not interested or uninterested. You have to capture their attention. Okay, so create interest, maintain it, reward it. It starts with your title, and that title should do what it can to capture the attention of somebody. And then once you catch them by the title, you need to focus on the opening lines of your text. So the first paragraph, the first sentence, what does that do to create interest and to keep those eyes on the text? All right. Then you need to maintain it. You can maintain interest by staying on task, by using readable language, understandable language, by developing a unique and interesting style that's not over the top, by using humor or wit properly, and just as you would flavor a dish with just the right amount of salt, not overdoing it, and always presenting interesting and relevant information as you move through this idea that you're working with in your text. And then what is this notion of the reward? What does a reader get in terms of a reward? Well, we are all, as humans, we have multiple facets to us, but one very important part of us is the intellectual, the mental side. We like to be curious. We like to be, I hate to use this word because it's part of the aphorism here: create interest, maintain it, and reward it. But we like to stay interested in what we're dealing with. And so sometimes the reward is very obvious, that it really does solve your problem. Like you might go online and you might type in how come my device isn't working this way, and you get a couple web pages and a video, and then you solve the problem. That's obviously the reward, right? But when you read a short story or a poem or an article or a piece of nonfiction that moves you, when you watch a good movie, when you listen to a good song, and you like the song, and you can listen to it 3 or 4 times, you are receiving an intellectual reward. It's hard to describe this completely, and it's you can't just break it all apart and look at it in its individual pieces. But that sense of connection, that sense of enjoyment, that is the reward. And at times you might be writing about something and you might say, well, how is this going to ever compete with their favorite song? Well, the reward scale, at times someone might go through a piece of nonfiction, at the end say, well, that was interesting, and then they walk on, and actually 2 or 3 days later they forget about most of it. But in that moment, they appreciated the reading experience and they did not feel like it was a waste of time. So that right there is a type of reward that we give each other. Now, this is really all about you, your attention span, and the way you live life, the way you feel comfortable in a certain room versus another one, the way you appreciate color or style or fashion or architecture or whatever you have, maybe a certain type of car. All of that is the reward that you find in that particular instance that is unique to you. So as an author, you have to think that way. How is what I'm doing creating interest, maintaining it, and rewarding it? Now, it's helpful to find material where these elements individually are illustrated. So for this assignment, you need to look at the beginning of chapters to see how James Nestor creates interest, tries to create interest. Notice how each chapter begins with something very concrete, a specific event. You get names, you get times, you get colors, you get activity. It's kinetic, it's moving. And then 2 or 3 lines later, he might move more into an abstract approach, but there is a sense of something very specific that you can visualize as you look through the opening lines of his first 7 chapters. He's simply, in this case, trying to create interest. Now, when he writes the book Deep, he has picked a topic that might be potentially full of interest for many people. How does this work? How do people dive down so far into the ocean without any water? How can someone actually hold their breath for 5 minutes? And that activity itself is sort of interesting. So Deep has a better chance at capturing and maintaining someone's interest. But to write a book about breathing, come on, how can breathing be interesting? What's going on here? And as you read the opening introduction, because that's also part of the assignment, you need to read the introduction, all of it, and then you need to read the first lines of chapters 1 through 7, and you need to watch how he's creating interest and then maintaining it throughout the introduction. You can see how he's trying to maintain it. Now, the reward at the end is a sense of the excitement of the book to follow. He tells you what he's going to do and how it's important and how it can change your life. So he's kind of prepping you for a deeper reward. But look how he opens this stuff. And look how he's trying to create interest in something as mundane and, here's a word for you, abecedarian, ABC, like the ABCs, just sort of basic, abecedarian, as breathing.